One cigarette was left. Will this be the one? It better be. Their clerk at the store last night had a particular distaste for smokers. She had seen his eyes roll when random strangers asked for a pack. She now pondered if perhaps his ex-wife had been a smoker, or a parent. Hell, maybe even one of his kids. He did say he was a grandfather of a few. Anyways, his hatred for smokers equates to not aiming to please the customer, which equates to Crystal smoking Bold Extra. Ew. It's terrible, smells stronger, and more unpleasant experience than it ever was to begin with. Crystal Dawn had taken a spiritual journey with her partner, what must be a week ago now. They traveled to Dunn Lake, British Columbia. Their new slogan would be, "Been there, done that." And they would return home from their journey completely healed of that which burdens them. Crystal needed to be away from the temptations of cigarettes. Erasmus needed to find out what was holding him back from the things he knew he wanted. At 12, he woke before daylight to bicycle himself to the pool for early morning practice. He was going to the Olympics. I believe he had it in him. He started a swim team for his high school and excelled at academics. Many athletes are not dumb jocks. They are individuals with a great wealth of knowledge about the biology of the human body. He was very successful. Crystal Dawn put out the last cigarette and gave her daughter a hug goodbye. While this sounds dramatic, it was entirely true as her daughter was leaving to ride her bicycle to the rock climbing gym. She was awesome like that. The last purchased pack of cigarettes was almost discarded. After careful deliberation, it was decided if this was to be significant, it must be made significant. The empty pack was placed in a scrapbook for future memory recording. FMR is a technique used for individuals who want to remember their life experiences in a beautiful, easy-to-view and read format. In 2022, most have moved on to digital memory savers, but a rare few still exist this scrapbook. It was this idea of a digital future memory recording that was used in the future to not only resurrect the dead, but also immortalize mankind. Crystal looked at the joint between her tanned, scarred fingers. 1/8 of an inch left, she thought. Be wary. It must be said that you would assume that when one had the answers to mankind's problems and were writing these solutions in a book, the book would spew forth with such intensity the writer would be in a mental frenzy like Alice in Wonderland's rabbit that never has enough time and is always late for a very important date. It is not so. Yes, the words were there and ready to pour forth whenever given the opportunity. Crystal was never at a loss of words. With a partner, 6 children, an art studio, and a big Greek family, there was always something needing attention, requiring energy. Even now, she multitasked between writing and speaking with her daughter about how to make good friends. It was balance. Crystal had been self-employed for a long time, and the children were used to approaching and making requests at any time. It was only when Crystal was working with scalpels, the flushing machine, or drills did they sometimes wait until it was safe to do so. Many minor injuries occurred throughout the children's upbringing as Crystal multitasked her way through life. Erasmus was off to his brother's to help unload new windows, so it was the perfect time to sit and get some writing done. Page 55, Newspeak, a common language for mankind. In 1984, they have destroyed language to a simplified version. While a language all mankind could understand is dreamed of, yet still to be instigated, this simplified language was not what people wanted. It's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words. Of course, the great wastage is in the verbs and adverbs, but there are hundreds of nouns that could be got rid of as well. It isn't only the synonyms, there are also the antonyms. After all, what justification is there for a word which is simply the opposite of some other word? A word contains its opposite in itself. Take good, for instance. If you have a word like good, what need is there for a word like bad? Ungood will do just as well, better, because it's an exact opposite, which the other is not. In 2022, we have a twisted use for words now that do confuse the masses. This confusion typically results in the offense. Once an offense has been committed, an individual has been offended. A series of disciplinary measures can be taken. These laws were originally intended to stop racism, division among people. They were now twisted and used for mere inexcusable, sometimes accidental or ignorant offenses. They ranged in seriousness, of course. Sometimes it was a look, a glance, or stare. The worst misuse was when people had differing opinions. If you disagreed with someone's opinion and stated something different, you were met with hate. It was mostly fueled by ignorance. Speaking of which, ironically, it's perfect timing, right in line. Page 58, George Orwell predicted Justin Trudeau in 1984. What was slightly horrible was that from the stream of sound that poured out of his mouth, it was almost impossible to distinguish a single word. As he watched the eyeless face with the jaw moving rapidly up and down, Winston had a curious feeling that this was not a real human being, but some kind of dummy. It was not the man's brain that was speaking, it was his larynx. The stuff that was coming out of him consisted of words, but it was not speech in the true sense. It was a noise uttered in unconsciousness, like the quacking of a duck. At 5:40 p.m., hunger becomes evident as something to not be ignored. It was usually around dinner time that Crystal allowed herself to eat. Food was a struggle for Pearls and became a huge global issue needing resolving before mankind destroyed itself or the planet. Taking a big breath and little bites, she has to practice a little being at the moment, mindful eating and enjoying the food. Erasmus was so awesome with the food. All that Olympic training and open access to his parents' kitchen equaled a man with a ferocious appetite. His body truly was a machine that needed fuel, though. He did the majority of the household cooking. The children really put in effort sometimes, but that was more like the ebb and flow of the sea. Sometimes there, sometimes not. He really cared about making sure the whole family was eating what their bodies needed. The majority of evenings were spent watching Curiosity Stream, so it became increasingly difficult to eat typical Pearl food, knowing the poisons that were in it. People that are not the primary cooker of the nutrition for the family cannot understand the time, effort, forethought, or financial limitations that are required to create meals daily. People not only eat daily, they eat 3 times a day on average in 2022, and also snack between meals. That's only in some households, globally. Whether in capitalist Canada or corrupt Cameroon, there are those that go without food daily. From children to seniors, all cities and towns, the rich and poor are no longer divided, but seen sharing the same world. Movie stars live right here in the Okanagan Valley. Crystal even provided props for a film called The Recall with Wesley Snipes. She brought her children and they toured the film set. The alien suit was awesome. It was at 9:40 p.m. that the workday finished, and Gerasimos finally came inside. He made some amazing progress on the Rainbow Natural Art Studio sign. The book 1984 leaves off at Part 2, Chapter 6. There are 16 pages total, written in total in 2 days.